Welcome to People and Profit. This will be the worst year in the history of aviation, with passenger numbers and revenues half of what they were last year. That's the view of the industry's biggest representative body, the IATA. Air travel has collapsed since March, and a recovery is expected to be slow. Some airlines have already gone bust, while others have made dramatic cuts. Lufthansa, British Airways, Ryanair and EasyJet among those, axing thousands of jobs. Governments have had to step in with rescue plans too. US airlines have received support of loans and grants worth more than 20 billion euros, while Germany and France have bailed out Lufthansa and Air France. So will the industry recover, and how? To discuss this, I'm joined by Alexandre de Juniac, the CEO of the International Air Transport Association, which represents 290 airlines around the world. Thank you for joining us, Mr. de Juniac. You're also the former boss, I should say, of Air France too. Can I start by asking you, where is the industry now? Have we passed the worst point in this crisis, or is that still to come?
We hope that we have passed, the worst point, the bottom of the crisis. Provided there is no second wave in front of us. But if there is no second wave, we think that the worst period is just behind us, and that we are starting to fly again. So the restart is now, and in the coming months and years.
You're talking
and we
about.
Are ready.
You're talking about demand being down by more than 50% this year and around 25% next year. Will travel ever return to pre-pandemic levels, do you think?
Our forecast is that it should return to pre-pandemic, but not before 2022, 2023. So that's the slow recovery you were mentioning before. The point is that if there is no second wave of the pandemic, we think that the appetite to fly coming from passengers is still there. There are still some questions about the business trip because, the pandemic has changed the habit and probably the motivation for people working in various business travel. So that could be a change. And additionally, it will take time for the airline to come back to the historical trends before all the borders will be open, before all the travel restrictions will be lifted. So that's a complete system that has to restart again. We are ready. We have done all the job to prepare and to implement that. And so we are pretty optimistic. It will work. And the question of the rhythm is the key question there.
So you're hopeful for a recovery. Nonetheless, your organisation is predicting losses of 84 billion for airlines this year. We've already had some companies go bust. Do you think there will be more airlines that will disappear?
Could be. It could be because the situation is so tough and the challenge is so huge that unfortunately some airlines will not be able to cope with it, first of all. But we have to underline that the efforts that have been done by governments through their support, their financial support plan, has been tremendous all over the world. We have seen, billions of dollars that have been poured the system by the US, by South America, by Europe, by Middle East, by Asia and Asia Pacific. So we rely on this financial support to survive. And we think that what has been done is goes in the right direction. Now we're asking governments to continue to put money, to inject cash, and perhaps to avoid increasing the debt of our industry because it's already heavily indebted. So we tell government, continue your support, but move more to direct cash injections by any means than to increase the debt of the sector.
Well, as you say, governments have been putting billions into airlines through grants or loans. Now, there have been some environmental commitments set in exchange for that money. Many of them have been criticised by environmental groups as being too weak. Should governments be looking for more from airlines in return for this help?
What we say is two things. First of all, as you know, we have very strong commitments in terms of environment. the main one is to reduce our CO2 emission by half in 2050 compared to the 2005 level. So it's very, very ambitious because it includes the potential growth that should happen between now and 2050. So it's a very, very ambitious goal, and this goal is still there. We haven't given up. We maintain our commitments. We will stick to them. So that's the first point, and they are ambitious. And secondly, we said to government, the situation is so difficult. We are such in a survival mode, struggling for the next days, next hours, that it is useless and probably detrimental to the industry to add further and additional constraints. And it is particularly useless from our point of view because we are still sticking to our very strong and ambitious environmental commitment.
But is this not the time, in a time of crisis, to be able to make those dramatic changes? Because so many aircraft are grounded. So if, when there's going to be a restart of this industry, is this not the moment to make those commitments, to move up that deadline, make it 2030 and not 2050?
This deadline has to be feasible. We think that already, dividing our CO2 emission by 2 in 2050 is already ambitious because technically, scientifically, we are not able, to move an aircraft without using kerosene at this stage. And with the technical and the scientific knowledge that we have now and that we can forecast in the next 15 to 20 years. We can reduce our CO2 emission mainly by compensating our CO2 emission. That's the 4CR program that will be in place in 2020. And secondly, by using sustainable fuel. And we will do it, but it's already technically very advanced, very ambitious, and it's totally useless from our point of view to make unreachable commitments that that would be only a kind of advertising without any content. We are a serious industry. We make commitments. We stick to them.
The IATA was involved in drawing up commitments with the International Civil Aviation Organization on how flying should be after this pandemic. How convinced are you that those guidelines are going to be adhered to, or will we end up with a different set of rules in different parts of the world?
What we have worked and advocated for was to work on a common set of rules that would be harmonized and applicable everywhere in the world. And the reason why we did that under the umbrella of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, and with the contribution of the best specialists and of WHO, to be sure that we had the right approach to fight against this pandemic and to maintain the exceptional level of safety we have in our industry. And health safety is among our priorities. It has always been a priority for this industry. But what we have said to government, and I think pretty successfully, because the rules that have been developed under ICAO have been developed with the acceptance, with the support of many governments, in fact of all governments that were involved, that we will gather the support of the main countries, and of course that they will be implemented by all our members and by all airlines. So we are pretty optimistic. We will make it. It will perhaps take time, some weeks, but not more, because the set of rules are, first of all, very seriously designed by the best experts. They are reasonable, they are clever, and they guarantee safety. So we think that we are moving in the right direction.
We have an uneven set of rules at the moment in Europe anyway for travel and where people are able to travel, notably the UK maintaining a 2-week quarantine at the moment. What sort of risk does that pose to your industry?
The quarantine measures, for us, it's a major risk because, frankly, it stops air travel because nobody will plan any travel whether it's business or touristic travel of a few weeks, if he has to spend 2 weeks in quarantine. So we do not support this type of measures, but we say to government, it's useless for you to adopt these measures, provided you implement the set of rules that have been designed and worked out through ICAO. That is the key issue. And secondly, we have maintained as a potential additional barrier the passenger testing. But the testing system is not ready to cope with that at this stage. Perhaps in the coming month, it will be ready. So to have tests that are reliable, that are fast, that are scalable, that are easy to use or to implement on passengers. But it's not the case now. If it happens to be the case, that could be a good answer to those who want to maintain quarantine. And that could remove these quarantine measures, provided a passenger are properly tested. But for the moment, the system is not ready.
Briefly, if you could, Mr. Juniac, when do you think flying will become a regular occurrence for people again?
That's if there is no second wave, so if the pandemic progressively disappears, we should come back to normal in 2021 in terms of flying as it was before.
Okay, Alexandre de Juniac, Chief Executive of the International Air Transport Association, thank you very much for speaking to us. Do get in touch with your thoughts on the future of the airline industry. You'll find us on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter. Until next time, thanks for watching.